You're listening to Batting 1000 with Dale Vermillion, where heavy hitters from mortgage, real estate, and business share their secrets for lasting success. With your host, award-winning sales strategist and industry icon, Dale Vermillion.
All right, welcome back to Batting 1000, where we have the heavy hitters in the mortgage industry, and I am delighted today to have not only a great longtime friend for, I think, almost a couple decades now. Will and I have known each other for a long time, but also somebody that I've worked with very closely as a partner. Will Adams is the Senior Vice President and Head of Sales for LendingTree. You all know who LendingTree is. They are the premier provider in the mortgage industry for a long, long time now on consumer leads. Will is just a wealth of knowledge. I know this is going to be a powerful session today because he's going to talk about what's happening in the lead world and what's happening with consumers and what as lenders and loan officers we can do to adjust to this rising rate market and really talk about insights on best practices and conversion and lead management and all of those kind of things. So Will, great to have you. Appreciate you so much. You're a great friend to me personally, just a great icon in this industry. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for your partnership, and thank you for inviting me to this. I consider this a privilege, and I'm very excited to be here and speaking with you today.
Well, I'm certainly glad to have you, and I can't wait for you to start opening up with this audience on all of the knowledge you have, because the one thing that you all need to know, and I'm going to have Will talk a little bit about his background, but the thing you need to know about Will is that not only is he, at the top of the organization with LendingTree and has a great understanding of the lead world for a lot of years now. Him and I have worked together. We've been the training partner with LendingTree for I think 12 years now. I've got my LendingTree shirt on. I'm representing. I love LendingTree.
Thank you.
But Will also was in the business for a long time. So he was an originator and managed and knows all that. So he's got a very unique perspective. So Will, you want to share a little bit more about just your background and your experience and credentials so people know a little bit more about you?
Of course, sure. It's funny how many of us stumble into the mortgage industry. I don't know that we go to school thinking that we're going to end up in the mortgage industry. In fact, I grew up playing baseball and I was blessed enough to play in college and was injured. And that ended my career and I was crushed. I didn't know what I was going to do. My dreams were crushed. And so I came home for the summer from college, and one of my parents' neighbors was in the mortgage industry and was willing to train me to be a loan officer. So I ended up becoming a loan officer in college and loved it. I enjoyed the mortgage industry. I enjoyed being a loan officer and ended up becoming an underwriter, then a wholesale account executive. And then I was able to get into leadership, in which I managed wholesale account executives, I managed loan officers, I managed fulfillment groups, so processing, underwriting, and closing. And so I've been able to work for different models of companies in the mortgage industry and within different positions in the mortgage industry. Of course, now I work here at LendingTree and manage the sales and client management teams for most of our business lines, including mortgage. And I think that the fact that I came from the industry, I know what it's like to be on the other side of the table, has really helped me in my career here at LendingTree as we consult our partners and really work on trying to make them successful.
Awesome. Well, the fact that you play college baseball and it's called Batting 1000 is a perfect fit for you, Will. This works out well. Yeah. And we actually called it this partially because I have a love for baseball. I had a chance to play semi-pro for a half a season when I was young. My problem was an injury. I couldn't hit a curve. That was my problem. So I had to get into the mortgage business because I had no chance. If they didn't throw me a fastball, I was in trouble. So it sounded like you could at least handle the curve. So maybe I'll throw you a couple today and see how you tee them off.
That sounds good.
Love it.
I promise I didn't hit 1,000.
There you go. That's all right. That's okay. Let's begin. Look, let's just go right to where we're at in the marketplace today. Let's just address the white elephant that's out there today. Rates have risen dramatically in the last couple of months.
Sure.
Lenders are dealing with the challenges of a higher rate market that we haven't seen in a long time. We just came off two of the best years we've ever seen in history. Rates we never thought we'd dream of seeing in our lifetime. I never believed, you could never have told me that rates would be under 2% at some point, and they were. And now we're dealing with a marketplace that is more what you and I have been used to most of our career. But, there's a lot of people that entered this market in 2020, 2021. They've never seen anything but low rates and, massive volume on refis and plenty of purchase. And now that has shifted and changed. So let's begin by talking about just what you're seeing out there today in the lead world. As a result of these rates, I've said it my whole career, when rates go up, the one quid pro quo is activity for consumers goes down. Now, in the purchase market, you have a little bit of an urgency that happens with that, where actually initially a rate increase actually increases purchase volume because people want to buy before rates get too high. But on the refi side, doesn't work that way. If they see rates go up, they generally stop, except for those who didn't do it. They'll try to jump in the last minute, but we're past that last minute now. We're starting to see stabilize things. Give us a little bit of insight on what you're seeing at an executive level from a lead-based standpoint. Talk purchase and refi separately and home equity and what you're seeing there. And then let's talk about, what you're seeing from a consumer perspective and what consumers think about this market today.
Okay. Well, I think it starts especially with speaking to the lenders first. What we saw in 2020, in early 2021, really started this process in that lenders enjoyed the fact that they were able to refinance a lot of their previous customers and had a lot of organic volume. In fact, they had so much organic volume that in many cases they staffed up. They hired loan officers, they hired processors in order to keep up with this high demand. As they were finished their previous pipeline, their pipeline of customers, and or rates started to flatten up, some of that organic volume slowed down. And so lenders look to new customer acquisition channels in order to keep and maintain that level of originations. They hired up and they had to be able to feed those new loan officers. And so as lenders leaned into new customer acquisition, it really created more and more competition within new customer acquisition. Certainly that relates to LendingTree along with other companies like LendingTree. And so we've seen companies really either thrive or struggle with this increased competition. One of the companies I worked at in the past was Decision One Mortgage. The CEO there, J.C. Faulkner, would often say that it's hard to distinguish good athletes when everyone is running downhill. But when the group is forced to run uphill, you're really able to see some runners pull away from the pack. And that's certainly what we're seeing right now. When volume was high and competition was low, we saw conversion ratios really clustered together. Certainly some lenders converted better than others, but they were all fairly close. Where call it late 2021 and so far in 22, we've really started to see lenders separate from each other in terms of conversion ratio. And so we're starting to see some companies, based on their strategy, based on perhaps their technology, based on their loan officers, be able to really thrive in this market and steal share. And I think that that's what we will continue to see in 2022 is a real focus on share. When we look at a lot of the large successful companies today, I would say that they became successful in markets like this, where they were able to steal share and enjoy that share in times of greater originations.
I love that quote that you used from J.C. Faulkner that talked about people running downhill. You can't tell the good runners. I've said it many times in this kind of a marketplace over the years that a rising rate market will expose your shortcomings faster than anything I've ever seen in the mortgage arena. This is where you separate the wheat from the chaff. There's no question about it when it comes to your sales team, your loan officers, and even organizations as to how they approach it. So let's talk about this for a minute. You said something there really important I want to unpack a little bit. And you said, we're seeing conversion rates, they kind of clustered together in 2020, 2021 because the volume was so high. Look, let's be honest about this. 2020, 2021, you could almost have an approach of, hey, here's what I got to offer you. Do you want it or not? It was a do you want it or not market. It's really what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not in a do you want it or not market anymore. Now we're in a if I could, would you market where it's got to be if I could help you and you have a good value proposition to offer that customer, then the question is, would you be willing to talk to me about a mortgage? And if you do it well and you have a great value proposition, you're going to get it. But now we're starting to see that separation in conversion, and you said that depends on strategy and what companies are doing. Help us understand some of those kind of best practices strategies that you've seen in this marketplace that make a difference in increasing conversion rate for lenders and for loan officers out there today.
Sure. Yeah. Best practices is one of the most common questions that I receive. And
Yep.
When I came from the mortgage industry and I started at LendingTree, that was my first question. That's what I was excited to learn the first was, what is that one best practice? And over my 8-year career here at LendingTree, I've realized there's not one best practice. There's a lot of right ways. There's a lot of wrong ways. Yeah. And which right way has a lot to do with your model within your company and your strategy within your company. As evidence, I've seen talented mortgage professionals at one company where their strategy was able to work well, go to a new company, implement that same strategy, and that strategy no longer worked. Right. So, I think that it's important that you understand your model within your company and what you are good at and take advantage of that. So what I often talk to our partners about is, first off, create a strategy. Create a strategy that makes sense for your company and for the market that you're in. So certainly we're in a market right now, to your point, it's no longer a taking orders kind of market, right? And so create a strategy around that. Secondly, test your strategy, make sure that it's being followed. There's a lot of ways to secret shop your organization. In fact, there's companies that will do it for you. Scott Payne is excellent at this. Yep. And he offers a great service, and I highly recommend that companies take advantage of him. But I'm surprised at how often companies are not actually following their own strategy. And then third, it would be to test that strategy. We do a ton of testing here at LendingTree. That is the market changes, consumer behavior changes, and so what worked in the past doesn't necessarily work any longer. Phone calls are a great example of that. Do you use what phone number do you show on that caller ID? Do you show a 1-800 number? Do you show a local number? Do you show your company's local number? Do you show your company's name on the caller ID? That answer has changed over the last couple of years. Yeah. But then, as you are testing, identify the winners and then optimize to that winner, right? So, and then start testing again, because as I mentioned, the right answer will change. But more specifically, some of what we're seeing is that ability to be able to help customers with their entire financial situation, right? As you mentioned, loan officers, there were a lot of new loan officers hired during 2020, and even existing loan officers developed a lot of bad habits. So these loan officers were having these conversations with consumers that they were able to easily lower their interest rate, and that's what the customer wanted. They didn't have to really talk about the debt that they have and the goals that they have for their financial well-being. Yep. And so now loan officers are having to adjust to this new market and find ways to have benefit other than just lowering rate.
Yep. Awesome. So you just unpacked so many powerful things there. I want to go a little deeper on some of these. The first thing you talked about was the importance of really building relationship, of spending enough time with that customer
Absolutely.
today, not to be an order taker. That is a common mistake that loan officers make when they go through a dropping rate market. It's rushed through the application because you got 10 more people in line, so you spend no time with them. You find out the bare bones minimum, what you need to qualify them, quote them a rate and see if they say yes or no and move on. And therefore there's no sustainable relationship. And the problem with that is not only will that cost you the deal in a credit trigger market where your customers are getting credit triggered, they're getting smartphone triggered, there's all kinds of marketing coming after them that's going to end up losing those deals. But you get no repeat and referral business out of that. You might get that first sale, but you may never get another deal out of that borrower. And I always go back with people to the 9-10 rule. The statistics tell us that the average homeowner is going to go through 9 mortgages in their lifetime. We want all 9.
Yeah.
The only way you do that is through sustainable relationship, and then they can give you 10 referrals because they know 10 other people. So relationships key. You talked about secret shopping calls. Scott Payne was actually is a friend of both of us, longtime friend of both of us, and a great guy. I couldn't agree with you more. He was my first guest on Batting 1,000, so people probably know him from the show. I would highly recommend too, you call Scott and have him do some secret shopping on your sales teams and check it out. But look, you also want to, as managers, monitor calls internally, listen to recorded calls if you possibly can. If you can't, do side-by-sides with your loan officers and listen to what they're saying to your borrowers. Because in today's market, if you're just quoting rate, you're dead before the game ever started. And that's a bad habit that happened in 2021 that we got to eliminate immediately in 2022 because everybody loved hearing 2 1/4. Nobody likes hearing 4 1/4. When that 2 1/4 seemed like yesterday. So these are all really important principles that you're talking about, is establishing relationship and value up front. In other words, building a value prop around how can I help you today. In the refi world, we talked about this before the show started. This isn't a rate and term market. This is a cash out debt elimination market. If you don't do that, you don't have a lot of chance of winning in this marketplace today. But even in that, you got to understand your borrower's situation and goals, and that means spending time with them to build that relationship. When you do that and you do it well, and that's where your secret shoppers will tell you whether you're doing it well or not, you're going to win big in this marketplace and have plenty of opportunity. Would you agree with all of those?
Yes, I would. I think that's well said. You asked about consumer behavior as well, and that reminds me of a lot of what we're seeing in that, consumers will come to companies like LendingTree and other companies and not know exactly what they're looking for. Certainly, they have in their mind that they can lower their interest rate and often would like to save money, but they don't always know the best way to do it. And we have a lot of conversation internally about that, the way that we ask questions within our forum and expect customers to know exactly what product that they're looking for. But look, I mean, we're in an interesting market right now, right? I mean, I'd say we have found through our studies that a lot of consumers do not know the accurate value of their home.
Yep.
And so when you look at equity available in order to do a debt consolidation or cash out, that value is important. So making sure that you have the right tools in order to establish the value. And also the right product. So we have consumers that will come in, and the reality is often they will need cash or they will need to do a debt consolidation. Now, should they refinance their first mortgage for that? Should they do a home equity? Should they do a personal loan? Should they find a lower interest rate credit card to transfer that to? That's a lot of what they rely on experts for. And certainly we are trying to establish better consumer experiences within LendingTree in order to help and walk those consumers through that journey. But that's what loan officers need to be able to help customers with. And we find that a lot of consumers would like home equities. And the reality is often you need higher credit scores for home equity. It's difficult to qualify for a lot of home equity loans, and many of these consumers would still qualify and find a lot of benefit in refinancing their first mortgage and doing a debt consolidation.
Yep.
Producer Jake here. Thank you so much for watching part of Dale's conversation with LendingTree's head of sales, Will Adams, right here on Batting 1000. You can watch the full conversation, plus gain access to new episodes by joining our exclusive members-only hub at Vermillion.com/Diamond Club. But don't worry, even without joining, you can still watch excerpts of all future episodes for free right here on YouTube. Look for more great content from Dale and our team. Just follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Links are in the description. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell icon and select all notifications to make sure you never miss any of Dale's free content. Okay, see you in the next video.